And welcome back into NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey, producer Chris Daughtry behind the scenes for today's show as we're going to run through all the latest around the NFL as we are finally, at long last, almost here for the start of NFL preseason. We have the Hall of Fame game on Thursday, which it's like it is football's back. It's not football's back. Well, to be fair, the NFL markets it as like 5 different times football is back. Like, there's back together weekend, there's the first training camp day, there's the Hall of Fame game, there's the rest of the preseason, there's actual week 1. They do a very good job of that, I suppose. So, as a sicko, I am allowed to ask this question. Will you be watching the NFL Hall of Fame game this year? It is the Lions and the Chargers. By the way, Trey Lance is going to start for the Chargers, which I assume they're definitely not going to play Herbert. I assume the fact that Lance is starting means they're not going to play Taylor Heineke, which means the second quarterback for the Chargers is going to be, Chris, you'll love this, DJ Uiagalelei will be the second quarterback playing. It's just like, the Hall of Fame game often turns into like draft fan and college football nerd, like what's the Leonardo DiCaprio gift from the one movie, just it goes like that. It's that. It's like, I know him. That's what that one is. So we'll watch the NFL Hall of Fame game. Y for yes, N for no. 64% voting yes. I am certainly going to be watching it because I have no life and I actually enjoy it. Like, you get to just pull up the depths of that Lions roster and be like, okay, who we watching? Like, I don't know if you see any that guy's actually healthy, but like, Ronnie Bell deep cut's going to be getting some playing time in that one. Dominic Lovett as the 7th rounder will be in there. So, will you watch the Hall of Fame game? ACB collects, our Chargers fan will be, obviously. Who you got then on Thursday? I guess ties are an option, but I would rather jump off a bridge. Who you got? C for the Chargers, L for the Lions. Let me know in the comments section of today's show who you got winning that one. I assume we're going to see a lot of Hendon Hooker. So Hendon Hooker, Trey Lance, kind of a very fun, very interesting quarterback battle. See how the rest of the supporting cast ends up playing. C for the Chargers, L for the Lions. I got L's from Christian, Jacob, Ali the Reaper, Shelly, ACB Collects has Chargers, Choppy71 has the Chargers, Chris Romero as well. Let me know who you got on Thursday night for the Hall of Fame game. Then we get into the rest of the preseason. The week after that, we get Colts and Ravens and Bengals, Eagles, and Raiders, Seahawks on Thursday, August 7th. So we're back. We're right back in the swing of it here. So get the votes in. L for the Lions, C for the Chargers. Today's live NFL Daily is made possible by Ethos. As a father of one and a second one on the way, trust me when I say life insurance matters. It is not fun to think about what would happen if something happened, but you do need to be prepared. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. Ethos is a trustworthy company that disrupts the traditional life insurance industry, and it's more affordable than you might think. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There is no complicated process, and it's 100% online. No medical exam is required. You just answer a few health questions and get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. 3 million families have completed their applications and trusted Ethos to help find the right coverage. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. Links in the comments section and the description of today's show, ethos.com/NFL Daily. We'll discuss all the latest NFL news and rumors on today's show as well, but who do you think will end up signing Noah Fant? Let me know in the comments section of today's show, who do you think ends up signing Noah Fant? Drop that name for me in the comments of today, or the team name of today's show. M. Miller916 says the Dolphins. Let me know in the comments there. By the way, Chris, Kelvin Harmon. So in a minute, we'll do a very quick news update that we'll post on our Cowboys channel. Cowboys are releasing Kelvin Harmon to make room for Christian Matthews. So the listicle we had in the graphic of like, who's it going to be? And I mentioned receiver. That one ends up being correct on that one. So get your votes in. Who will end up signing Noah Fant? And we're going to do a very quick, this is going to go up as a short on our Cowboys channel for the Kelvin Harmon release news. Quick Cowboys news update for you guys. To make room for quarterback Christian Matthew, who the Cowboys signed earlier this afternoon, the Cowboys are releasing wide receiver Kelvin Harmon. They're not putting anyone on IR, so they did have to create a roster spot. Given the extra depth in the wide receiving core, Jalen Cropper has flashed. There's some other younger players on the roster behind the top-end players like CeeDee Lamb, Pickens, Tolbert, Turpin, etc. I do think releasing a wide receiver shouldn't come as a surprise. It was one of the options we mentioned in our news video earlier today on the signing of Christian Matthew. But to make room for Matthew, the Cowboys have released the former NC State product, journeyman wide receiver Kelvin Harmon. Cowboys roster back now at 91. Remember, they get the extra spot because of Denzel Daxon. To the rest of the NFL Live side here, who will end up signing Noah Fant? I see Falcons, which, interesting. I feel like they already have Kyle Pitts, and if you're Noah Fant, like, you're probably looking for a bigger guaranteed playing time spot. I don't really know if that fits for Atlanta. I think the Dolphins make sense, especially if like there's some uncertainty around how good Darren Waller is actually going to be. The Noah Fant like slots in really well for them. So I think Dolphins is a really good fit. I know that they mentioned that he visited the Saints and Bengals as well. I would lean towards any of those three teams being obvious answers because they've met with him. But I think Dolphins is my favorite one of the group so far. Because Waller is an unknown. Like, we don't know how he looks. We don't know how good he's actually going to be. He probably should play in the preseason, but I think Dolphins, like, the fit, independent of like the players on the roster, which outside of Waller, it's really thin there anyway. I do think Noah Fant is a really, really good option. All right, if you are ready for us to start the show today, then like today's live stream. Goal is always that 50% like ratio. We're not that far away from it, but we're always aiming for the 50% side. So please and thank you. Like the video as we get set up here for the live edition of NFL Daily. Likes free, simple, easy to do. Appreciate every single one who does it. I think Christian was right on the Noah Fant stuff. Like, Bengals have Mike Gesicki, who they paid. If Les Fant wants to be tight end 2 and more 2 tight end packages, I just don't really think it makes a ton of sense. All right, coming up live here on NFL Daily, latest NFL news and rumors. We will have a mailbag for you on today's show as well. 2 ways to get on. Super Chat, you're guaranteed to get on the show. Or use hashtag NFL. I saw some come in earlier from Twisted, and I think it was Chulalor was in there as well. Get your questions in or comments, thoughts, whatever. It's an open discussion platform. Hashtag NFL. And we'll hit the latest USA Today mock draft, which I'm going to try to be nice, but there's elements I just like, I don't really understand it. So all that's coming up live here on NFL Daily. We're hitting the latest NFL rumors on today's show. That includes the weird Christian Wilkins saga, I'll call it. Noah Fant updates, Trey Hendrickson, and Adam Schefter sounding off on Micah Parsons. Before we dive into that, be honest with me. Are you going to watch the NFL Hall of Fame game? I'm a sicko and an addict, so I certainly will be. Let me know if you are. Y for yes, N for no, and maybe we'll have a little watch party for you here on Chat Sports too. Let's dive into the latest on Christian Wilkins. He's unsigned, potentially for a while, after the very surprising release from the Las Vegas Raiders with predominantly the footage issue. But there's been a lot of questions and reports and buzz and just general stuff, weirdness even, going on out there around Christian Wilkins and the Las Vegas Raiders and what happens next. The foot issue is obviously a huge part of this, where he wasn't healthy. The Raiders wanted surgery. He said no. They filed a grievance to void the guarantees, but they didn't cut him immediately. The Raiders voided the guarantees and then cut him a couple days ago. Well, Adam Schefter, reporting on this alleged Christian Wilkins incident, says when you speak to people there inside the locker room, they say that Christian playfully went to kiss the teammate on top of his head, and some of those same people said that player took offense to it. That's what everyone's been dancing around and tap dancing around. An incident in the locker room where he allegedly playfully kissed a teammate on the top of his head. That teammate felt offended by it. Schefter also said that player filed a complaint to HR, which doesn't ever happen from NFL players. That's not really a thing that goes on in the vast majority of cases. But Mike Florio says that is not the story that's been making the rounds, and it kind of sounds like nobody is willing to put their name behind the report of what that is because, well, our good friend Mitchell Renz over on the Raiders Report talked to a source who told him that the report was it's tough to believe. It's an impossible thing to go public with. I don't know if it's true. The threat of a lawsuit is involved in the incident, and when you said the reporter's afraid of the reporting, part of that is the potential legal allegations. So now we're at this point. This is not over. Whatever is going on, we don't know the full story. I don't know if we're ever going to know the full story, frankly. Clearly stuff has happened with Christian Wilkins. This is the same guy who, go back to his college days, he's always been a little bbit unnecessarily grabby in the pile. I think we all know what I'm referring to. There's just a lot of and then Adam Butler came out and said if you're ever going through stuff, get some help. And it's was that about Wilkins? Was that about a team? What's actually going on here? Clearly there's one element of the injury, and there's this other stuff of did the incident actually happen, or was that what it actually was, and then it kind of deteriorated into something else, or is there a second thing? It's just a lot of unknown weirdness around this whole situation. Now, with that said, there's a great line, an old scouting adage of, if Hannibal Lecter could run a 4.4, they would call it an eating disorder. So, with that in mind, who ends up signing Christian Wilkins? If anyone, no one is a certainly valid answer to. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Some early betting odds on the next team for Christian Wilkins. The Patriots at plus 400. I think they've been mentioned in some reports there. The Lions, who may or may not be a Dan Campbell guy there. Arizona with Walter Nolan banged up, might miss some of the season. A return to Miami at plus 700. They did draft Kenneth Grant, add some extra defensive linemen. The Niners at plus 800. Chargers, Cowboys, Jets, Packers, Chiefs. They're all kind of distant long shots there with, I think, a lot of just uncertainty on what happens here. At his best on the field, Christian Wilkins is awesome. This is a great run stopper who took a step forward in pass rush ability in 2023, was on pace for a very good season before it all kind of went awry. Not quite times 4, not quite times 3, a little bit more than that, but you can essentially triple those numbers at minimum, maybe 3.5x, and 2 sacks in 5 games adds up to a pretty good figure. 2 TFLs in 5 games, not quite as good, but still ends up being pretty solid. He was a tackling machine at Miami. He's a great run stopper. But there's also the question of, is he healthy? That kind of all got put on the back burner with the other reporting going on around Christian Wilkins. When is he going to be able to play? Is he going to be able to play? How healthy will he be? Does he need that second surgery? I think you will have teams, much like the Raiders, who don't clear him to return to activity without a surgery. That might limit his field. That's going to limit the contract. So the Christian Wilkins saga, I suspect, is only just getting going for the NFL. Today's show is made possible by Ethos. As a father of one with a second kid on the way, trust me when I say life insurance matters. It's not fun to think about what would happen if something happened to you, but you need to be prepared. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote today at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. Ethos is a trustworthy company that disrupts the traditional life insurance industry, and it's more affordable than you might think. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There is no complicated process, and it's 100% online. No medical exam is required. You just answer a few health questions and get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. 3 million families have completed their applications and trusted Ethos to help find the right coverage. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. Links in the comments section and the description of today's show. Appreciate Ethos sponsoring us here on NFL Daily. Let's go to Noah Fant. Since his release by the Seahawks, he has been on a free agency tour of sorts. The Bengals, he visited with them. The Saints, he visited with them. The Dolphins, he visited. All three have pros and cons. Bengals are a fun offense, but they paid Mike Gesicki already. He was very good. The Saints, we'll see what the overall outlook for that offense looks like under Kellen Moore. They have Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau, but they're both banged up. Same with Taysom Hill. Miami did make the surprise trade for Darren Waller that I don't think anyone really saw coming, but he's also banged up. And if you don't trust him, it's Pharaoh Brown and Julian Hill and Tanner Conner. Miami's a really intriguing fit, actually, for a guy that hasn't been bad in his career, but he's never quite had the leap. Like I've kind of, especially after that 2021 campaign, he had 670 yards. That was good. He was coming off back-to-back 670-plus yard campaigns. It's like he's going to start going for like 700, 800, 900 yards, and he did that, but in 2 years combined. And the Seahawks made the move to go get Elijah Arroyo. That role was repetitive, and it ends up kind of getting himself released before camps get going, and now he's kind of trying to find the right destination. So who will end up signing Noah Fant? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Get those predictions in right now. Trey Hendrickson, let's check in on him. That saga continues to drag on after it seemed like the two sides were getting closer. There was that optimism for a day of, hey, this deal might get done real soon. And then I think we now know why there was optimism and why it hasn't gotten done. Guaranteed money, a.k.a. the stuff that matters most, is the crux of the issue here between the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson, where it's, Adam Schefter is currently reporting that the deal is mostly in place. The Bengals don't want to offer more guaranteed money, go left, on what is a likely 3-year deal for him. Like, that's the crux of the issue, that they don't like giving away big guaranteed money. They did it for Jamar Chase. They did it for Joe Burrow. But they don't want to do it for Hendrickson, which, I don't know. When you lead the league in sacks, like, it's reasonable to expect you're going to get paid like the top of the market, or at least top 10 of the market. That's an issue. And the Bengals have waited so long that the market's gone up because that's how the market always goes. Here's what Schefter said, like what the difference is between the contracts here. It depends on who you're asking, but I would say anywhere between 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 million. Let's put it this way. Multiple millions apart in guaranteed money. Got to be frustrating for Bengals fans to okay, you finally got through the Shamar Stewart saga, but you're still dealing with the Trey Hendrickson one, who's coming off 17.5 sacks. The Bengals defense was not nearly good enough last year. You have legitimate Super Bowl aspirations, and you're haggling over guaranteed money for your best player on defense and probably your third best player overall, if worst case fourth best player with D. Higgins in that conversation. That's got to be frustrating. Right? Now, if you have not already subscribed, help us out. We got to the 413K mark. You guys are awesome. 414K is next up. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out on anything here on Chat Sports. Let's go to what Adam Schefter had to say on the Micah Parsons side. A significant but potentially troubling for Cowboys fans out there. Maybe good news for Eagles fans. Contract talks between Micah Parsons and the Cowboys. We'll break that down. But who gets paid first? I still think both guys get paid. It's just been a saga for both. Of the two, who gets paid first? Or maybe who only gets paid? MP for Micah Parsons, TH for Trey Hendrickson. Schefter's saying this, lengthy quote, bear with me, I'll kind of sum it up here. I would say right now we're nowhere on that deal. I would say right now we are further away from a deal in late July, early August than we were in late March, early April. The two sides have gone backwards, not forwards. I don't think they're speaking very much these days, if at all. There was communication in late March, early April when Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons were sitting down and making progress, tracking towards that deal getting done. But the negotiation, when it was a negotiation, has gone sideways. It's not one right now. There's no conversation about getting a deal done. That could change next week. Could change before the season. We've seen how long Dallas sometimes waits on some of these deals. CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott last year. This sounds different to me. Sounds a little bit more personal from both sides. Sounds like Dallas is upset with the fact that he felt like it was going to get closer to a deal, and then that deal went sideways. I think Micah feels like the deal should have been done already. I don't think Micah's happy with them. I don't think they're happy with him. I don't think anybody's happy with anybody. I don't think there's a deal that's being discussed right now, not to mention it being close. What's happening here behind the scenes is the Cowboys side is blaming Micah for no deal. Of like, you know, Stephen Jones, somehow he's got to want to get paid, which makes sense because he's holding in. And Micah's side saying, my agent called you. Like, what are we doing here? So they're kind of pointing the finger at each other for who's to blame for the delay. I think the Cowboys side of it, I think they're mad because the Cowboys and with the Jones boys, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, and Micah, had the private secret meeting in that March-April timeframe, and then the agent got involved. Which the agent was always going to get involved. Like, it was naive to think otherwise. Mike is disappointed because he thought they were super close. They didn't call the agent like he asked them to, and now the progress has stopped. And he's like, well, we were so close, and now other guys got paid, so my market went up. Like, what are we doing here? And there's frustration. But I've seen this exact contract stuff, but I actually disagree with Schefter. This does not feel different to me at all. This feels the same. This feels like the CeeDee Lamb contract. This feels like the Ezekiel Elliott contract. There's been so many times the Cowboys did it at the last second and then just gave the player everything that they wanted. Until that isn't the case, I'm going to assume it happens the exact same way it's happened in previous years. Mailbag time here on NFL Daily. 2 ways to get in on the show. Several good questions already coming in from Christian, by the way. So get your questions in via hashtag NFL or skip the line altogether via Super Chat. Do you just want to message Jackson and tell him that we're live so he kind of can't review? If he can just, I trust him to post it properly. Spelled right in the top one there. So use hashtag NFL or skip the line altogether via Super Chat. Christian's got a couple questions in there. I saw some other ones coming there earlier. Great chance to get all your questions answered on the show. It's July. It's sicko only time where you guys always have good questions, but better shot of getting those questions answered today than once we get to September and August or during a watch party. It's a little bit more chaotic on that front. So use hashtag NFL. Skip the line altogether via Super Chat. I see Richard Lee coming in there with some questions on. I think that's a scary Terry question, which is always good. Get him in. Hashtag NFL. Skip the line via Super Chat. Give you guys another 30 seconds or so to get those questions in. And then we'll get to the mailbag itself. Producer Chris, you all set on your end? Sweet. Thank you very much. Last call, questions in now, hashtag NFL, or guarantee yourself to get on the show via the Super Chat feature, excuse me. We're about to dive into one of our mailbags here on Chat Sports NFL Daily. If you enjoy them, show it by liking the video. That way we can keep doing more live shows all off season and in season long. Help us out by liking the video right now. First up from Lore. Who can be a bust in the 2026 NFL draft class? The proper answer here is everyone. There is no guarantee. I am old enough to remember the safest prospect ever, Aaron Curry, the linebacker from Wake Forest. Seahawks took him in the top 5. Guess what happened? He was a bust. It happens. It is never a guarantee. So even Arch Manning, as good as I think he's going to be this year for Texas, who may not go pro anyway, he might not end up materializing. Fair or not, it's one bad injury away. That's how football is. So everyone could bust. Hopefully they don't bust in the end. From Twisted Wizard 33, who I'm sure can't believe his life, the Vikings will be a Super Bowl contender, and J.J. McCarthy will cement himself as a top 7 QB. I would actually be hesitant. I think the outcome is possible. Like, McCarthy plays great. Vikings are a Super Bowl threat. That's what they almost were last year until the playoffs kind of unraveled on them. I would be hesitant to lock in any second-year starter as a top 7 QB. Everyone tried to do that last year with C.J. Stroud, and it all kind of fell apart on him. I think we're doing it right now with Jayden Daniels. I would not be surprised if Jayden Daniels does it again this year, and he is submitted as a top 7 QB, but I just want to see it for more than 1 year. I watched RG3 look incredible, and then, it wasn't the same after that. Like, it happens in football that I think at times year 2 can be harder than year 1 on a player. I think we saw that with Stroud in Houston. I have some belief in J.J. McCarthy, maybe not as much as my guy Thor over at Fantasy Life, and he's a big JJ fan, but I think he's going to have a good season. He's got a great supporting cast from the personnel, O-line investments, receiving core, head coach Kevin O'Connell, I think, is a bit of a QB whisperer, but I'm going to pump the brakes on a little bit of locking him in top 7 no matter what. From Jack Benjamin, is this the year Kyle Pitts gets traded? My answer is probably not. The only reason I say probably is because we can leave open the scenario that if something bad happens to Atlanta and they're just like, they begin like 0-6, then you could see them shopping someone like Kyle Pitts at the NFL trade deadline. Like, at that point, okay. But go look at that tight end room without Kyle Pitts and tell me it's anything other than the worst tight end room in football by a massive margin. I mean, we're talking Charlie Werner and Tegan Quintoriano, the former Texans guy, and Joshua Simon. Felipe Franks is like tight end 4 still for them. Like, he'd be tight end 3 if they traded Pitts. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think that team needs him. Now, free agency, next offseason, different conversation. So will the Falcons, we can keep it open until the trade deadline, will they trade Kyle Pitts? Y for yes, N for no. From Christian, how do you think the AFC West division is going to finish out? I say Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs, then Raiders. Well, I think that's a darn good division in football. Even the Raiders, I think, are going to be better than what they were last season. I'm still going to give the edge to the Chiefs. As long as Mahomes is healthy, that team just, through nonsense sometimes, keeps finding ways to win a bunch of games and win the division. I would probably bump the Chiefs and then up to 1. Then I go Broncos-Chargers. And I think that Broncos-Chargers tier is extremely close. And I think both of those teams are very, if not likely, probable and possible playoff teams. I think both of those teams have legitimate playoff aspirations. There's a chance that something happens to one of them injury-wise and it kind of changes the fortunes. That's how football tends to go, especially in the AFC where there's some good depth there for those wild card contenders. But I still think the Chiefs end up being number 1. From Christian, also, with the Steelers' offseason signings and draft, what do you think their floor and ceiling is? I mean, history tells us they're going to go at least 500, right? That's all Mike Tomlin does. There's always the threat of this being the year it finally bottoms out in Pittsburgh. I still think that's like winning at least 6 games. Now, I think that the nuclear scenario for Pittsburgh is old Aaron Rodgers gets hurt again, and now you're playing Mason Rudolph and Will Howard, and that's just a really bad quarterback room. And, you only win those 5 or 6 games. I think the ceiling is Rodgers turn backs the clock a little bit. The defense plays at a high level again, and you get to the postseason, and maybe you can make a bit of a run. AFC is tough, so I don't know if they can really, truly make the Super Bowl. But playoffs are definitely an option for a team that seemingly always finds a way to be in there. It's can they win a playoff game or 2, which they haven't done in quite a while. Today's show is made possible by Ethos. As a father of 1 with a second one on the way, trust me when I say life insurance matters. It's not fun to think about what would happen if something happened, but you do need to be prepared. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. They are a trustworthy company that disrupts the traditional life insurance industry, and it's more affordable than you might think. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There is no complicated process, and it's 100% online. No medical exam is required. You just answer a few health questions and get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. 3 million families have completed their applications and trusted Ethos to help find the right coverage. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL daily. That's ethos.com/NFL daily. Link is in the comments section and the description of today's show. Richard Lee, what is the Terry market look like to you? So I don't know if this means Terry McLaurin trade or Terry McLaurin extension. I'll answer both of them. Extension, I think, is the most likely outcome here. He is going to ask for DK Metcalf money at minimum. He has been just as productive as DK Metcalf, and you can argue he's actually been better, especially given the quarterback play at times in Washington versus what it was in Seattle without DK Metcalf's career. Now, he's older. That's an issue. But I think he is going to be asking for $33 million per year. Like, his numbers compared to DK Metcalf, blind resume up against it, you might take Terry. 10 fewer touchdowns, but, 13 fewer drops and more catches and more yards on the same amount of targets. That's not nothing in the end. Trade-wise, he's 29 years old. I think, again, isn't it the DK Metcalf or trade? Isn't that the fairest comparison? Like, he's a little bit older. He's due for a new contract, but he was pretty productive. Like, at this time in the calendar, maybe it ends up being like a third or a third and change. But I think that market is very similar. DK got 33. Maybe you try to get Garrett Wilson 32.5 instead. But that is, I think, pretty fair for McLaurin for what he has done. From Sean Charles, could the Panthers trade Adam Thielen? I'd say this is a name to monitor as we get closer to trade deadline time. Like, I don't think they're going to do it right now. I think that'd be kind of unique. But they have Tedero McMillan, first-round pick. If Xavier Legette can come along, he may not. If Jimmy Horn comes along, if Mike Cokeheads and Jalen Coker is able to show progress, what does Hunter Renfrow offer? There is a scenario where the Panthers go, we're actually good at receiver. Let's get something for Thielen and free up more reps for the young guys, Horn and Legette and McMillan, and maybe Renfrow is able to be available for the Carolina. So I wouldn't totally rule it out, especially if Carolina's like a game or two under 500, not really a true playoff team, and they think their other young guys are prepared to go. So name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Let me know who a player you think ends up getting traded. Which conference champion from last year has the better chance of making it back to the Super Bowl? It's a good question. I don't think they're that different of chances. I think the Chiefs probably have dealt with the least amount of turnover. They're also almost due to not be the AFC representative more so than Philadelphia is. I think the Eagles' path might be slightly easier. The North is tough, make no mistake, but I think Eagles are better than the Commanders. I think they're better than the Rams, so trust them more than the Lions, Vikings, Packers, etc. I think I'd actually lean Philadelphia, mostly because I think that if you're power ranking those NFL teams, even if you put KC at 1, Philadelphia at 2, you're probably putting Baltimore and Buffalo pretty darn close to 3 and 4, if not at 3 and 4. So that makes it a bit more challenging. If you guys want more NFL news, rumors, updates, hit that sub button. We got you covered on all things NFL here on Chat Sports. From Ruthless Monk, it's Art's cousin, I'm told. How much do you think a healthy Josh Simmons helps KC based on your evaluation? I think this is worth mentioning. If you can get average left tackle play, which I think is a reasonable expectation for a first-round pick at left tackle, that is a significant upgrade over what the Chiefs had last year. They were trying everything on the left side at tackle. It wasn't going well. Sumataya wasn't ready. He didn't play well. They had Donovan Smith start and win a Super Bowl at left tackle. A Super Bowl winning left tackle. That guy almost always gets paid. He's been out of the NFL since then. He hasn't played a snap since the Chiefs won a Super Bowl. You know how unusual that is? The Chiefs have won in spite of their left tackle. So I think Josh Simmons, if he's healthy, if he plays well, there's going to be ups and downs, but there's a very talented player who shouldn't have fallen that far down as far as I'm concerned. Like, the medicals were a huge factor there. Like, I think that's certainly worth, mentioning and discussing with just how things tend to work out. But if you get a good, locked-in, best version of Josh Simmons, that's a pretty darn good player for you. From Christian, which team or teams going this year do you think are overhyped? I say the Bengals and the Commanders. I mean, I think there is a very real scenario in which the Commanders are this year's Texans, where, like, they just aren't as – maybe they're even a better team, but the wins and losses don't reflect that in terms of their playoff run because they were such a positive surprise from last season. The Bengals, I think they're everyone's favorite, like, missed the playoffs last year, make it this year. So if that's the expectation, I don't mind it that much. There's a pretty big fall off here from Super Bowl odds, but like the Bengals and Commanders are both, I think 20-1 to make the Super Bowl this year. The Niners are also 20-1. I would like to mention them and LA because the Niners, they were really banged up last year. I think they'll be better, but I don't know if they're going to be a true like top 7 NFL team again. The Rams worry me, if only because how healthy is Matthew Stafford? Like, Jimmy Garoppolo is not the route I really want to go down. Now, I think those teams should be viewed as playoff teams, but I think part of it is like there's a bit of a gap in the NFC behind the Eagles, maybe the Lions, and then everybody else. From Bo, could the Browns trade Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco? Who ends up not making that team? Some of you guys won't like this, but from an investment level, they went out and signed Joe Flacco. They went out and added Kenny Pickett. They traded for him, who I think Pickett is my preferred answer here because I just don't think he's very good. And he's banged up right now. But you want Flacco in there as the vet mentor no matter what. They drafted Dylan Gabriel early. They took him before Shedeur Sanders. I think if we were handicapping based on investment level and how they're being used so far at camp, Shedeur's in the 4th spot, even though that wasn't our pre-draft evaluation at all. So which QB do you not keep on the roster? I would vote Kenny Pickett. The Browns might believe in him more than they should. JF for Joe Flacco, KP for Kenny Pickett, SS for Shedeur Sanders, DG for Dylan Gabriel. Carter, who this year's Ashton Genty or Cam Ward, meaning who will have a huge breakout year in college football, who is not projected as a first-rounder. There was a lot of love for Ashton Genty as like potential RB1, so I don't necessarily want to put that on him. If you want a running back who has like some underlying NFL draft love, but maybe isn't a household name, can I throw Micah Hughes at Oregon? Like, everyone knows Jeremiah Love. I think everyone knows Nick Singleton. The Tulane transfer for Oregon could be in for a big-time season. At quarterback, ignoring the top, 5, 6, 7 guys, he's kind of a runaround guy. I don't know if he's ever going to get rid of that issue for me, but John Mateer in Oklahoma should be really good in the SEC. Fernando Mendoza has a lot of believers. That's not a household name. But there's always somebody that emerges, often at quarterback. No one thought Joe Burrow was going to be Joe Burrow going into his final year at LSU. Look what happened. All right, comment time. Who will end up signing Noah Fant? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. I also like Chris's question. Does Caleb finally break the 4K yard curse? For those of you that don't know, the Bears have never had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards. Never. Let me get the exact number here. The Bears' single-season passing yardage leader, it's not even Jay Cutler, by the way, which you would assume it's Jay Cutler, right, from all those someone down there somewhere years. Jay Cutler happens to have 4 of the top 6 years, but it's Eric Kramer back in 1995. You guys are all too young to recognize the name Eric Kramer, aren't you? You got no idea, right? Yeah. He's there's a reason you don't know his name. How about that? Let's put it that way. He threw for 38 yards, 3,838 passing yards. They've never got to 3,900 even. Caleb's season last year, which was wasn't great. That was 5th all time in passing yards. 5th. for the Bears. It's just like, it's kind of crazy how that one ends up happening. So keep the comments coming. Let me get my quick short out here on the Kelvin Harmon side. Let me get that out there real quick. Who do you think ends up signing Noah Fant? We'll give some shout-outs here if those answers come in. It's Christian Matthew. There we go. Who will sign Noah Fant? I also like Rashard's response to the Caleb Williams. If they protect him, I mean, it kind of like needs to happen this year, or I'm worried it's just never going to for the. I mean, it will at some point for the Bears. Once we get to the 18-game season, like it's almost impossible not to at that point. Cutler played 15 games the year he threw for 3,812. He would have gotten there if he played 16 games, but didn't do it. So get your answers in. Who will end up signing Noah Fant? Coming up on today's show, we are reacting to the latest USA Today mock draft. And I'm going to try to be nice. Just to be blunt, there are some elements I don't understand with this mock draft, ignoring some name misspellings, and the lack of explanations given for the picks, which I find kind of lame. If you want more NFL draft videos with in-depth analysis, then type me in the comments section of today's show. I take no responsibility for the draft order. I am not in charge of it. The latest USA Today mock draft, though, had Caleb Downs going number 1 overall. I am a huge fan of Caleb Downs. A safety has never gone number 1. It's never happened. Highest they've gone kind of was number 2. Eric Turner kind of played some both. DBs and safeties don't go that high. They rarely crack the top 10, let alone the top 5. Great player, but number 1 just kind of feels unlikely. Number 2, Dennis-Sutton. And I'll be blunt, I just don't think he's there yet as a prospect. These are all projection-based. It's fine. I get it. I don't see number 2 pick. I don't think this guy is better than Abdul Carter. I don't think he's the same level of prospect as Micah Parsons, even Micah wasn't playing much edge. Want to put him back in round 1? Sure. I think number 2 is projecting such a level of growth that I don't think is fair right now. Plus, the Jets spent 2 first-round picks on edges in Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald in recent years. I don't know if they want to spend a third. The one bit of write-up the USA Today article did was they pretty much just decided to put Arch Manning to the Saints. Because if you're the Browns and Jets and Arch Manning goes pro and he's worth being the number 3 pick, well, then he's going to go number 1 or number 2. And your quarterback play wasn't good to stop you from being the top 2 pick. It's fun, though, for Arch to go to the Saints, just like his granddad played for him. Those jerseys would sell a record amount overnight. But I'm also not convinced that Arch Manning ends up turning pro. I think there is a more likely chance in which he goes back to school and kind of like Andrew Luck's his way through it all. And could have been number 1 overall pick, goes back to school, and we spend the entire year hyping him as the greatest prospect since Andrew Luck. That would not be a surprise to me. So, do you think Arch Manning turns pro? Y for yes, N for no. Go vote the pinned comment of today's show. I do like this pick for the Titans. Rueben Bain out of Miami, who was a bit banged up last year, but played well, really well in the year before that. Tennessee needs edge help. I think that's a flawless fit. Francis Mauigoa out of Miami to the Giants to potentially be their long-term right tackle option. Both he and the number 6 picks, Kadyn Proctor here, going to the Panthers. You're banking on some development and growth, but those are reasonable bets with where we sit in the summer scouting phase. If Carolina goes tackle, though, I assume this means they're pretty much done with the Ike Ekwonu experiment. The Colts take Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. Don't worry, I spelled this one right for you, USA Today, since you didn't in the article. I don't get it. I think Tyson as receiver 1, sure. He'd be more of a household name if we didn't get to benefit from, or if he was able to benefit from the CFP he didn't play against Texas. He and San level will put up big numbers. I get him being receiver 1. The Colts have paid Michael Pittman. They have Josh Downs as a good slot receiver. They drafted A.D. Mitchell in round 2. I get Alec Pierce is going to be a second-round pick, but I don't think receiver is a top 10 need for them. If anything, if they're picking 7, that means the quarterback stuff failed, and they probably got to go get a new one. I'm a big fan of Peter Woods, and I know producer Chris, you certainly are as well. I think he's going to have a massive year for Clemson. The Browns, though, at 8, when they just drafted Mason Graham in round 1, I don't know if that's the path this team would go. First-round picks at safety and defensive tackle is maybe not the best uses of a pair of top 10 draft assets there. This pick, by the way, is from the Jags, part of the Travis Hunter trade. I don't hate putting the other, quote-unquote, Utah tackle at number 9 overall. That is Caleb Lamu. We'll get to the other Utah tackle later on in today's show. DJ Glaze, third-round pick. We'll see if he's good enough for the Raiders. There is the CL Hive, I'll call it, out there for Utah. I don't hate it. Jeremiah Love at 10. I think Jeremiah Love is going to be awesome. I think if he could stay healthy for an entire year, we saw how good he could be in the CFP. He is an explosive athlete. But the Rams are trying to pay Kyren Williams. We'll see if they do. If they don't, they've spent a third-round pick on Blake Corum and a fourth-round pick on Jarquez Hunter. I don't know if the Rams going running back at number 10 is the most likely outcome. Today's show is made possible by Ethos. As a father of one and a second one on the way, trust me when I say life insurance matters. It's not fun to think about what would happen if something happened to you, but you need to be prepared. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. They're a trustworthy company that disrupts the traditional life insurance industry, and it's more affordable than you might think. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy. You protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There is no complicated process, and it's 100% online. No medical exam is required. You just answer a few health questions and get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. 3 million families have completed their applications and trusted Ethos to help find the right coverage for them. So protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. That link is in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's ethos.com/NFL Daily. Antonio Williams to the Arizona Cardinals. I don't mind this one. I would wonder if just like a pure X, with I think Williams being a bit more flexible, is a better fit to help maximize the Marvin Harrison Jr. talents. But Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Zay Jones doesn't really move the needle that much as a secondary batch of pass-catching options behind Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride. TJ Parker out of Clemson, if you were going to put the Jets edge at 2, I think you can make an argument that Parker is the best edge in this class as we sit right now in July. So it's great value there for the Cowboys. They've spent second-round picks, though, on Marshawn Kneeland, on Devin Ezeraku. Unless for some reason they're not going to pay Micah, I don't think another top 55 pick on an edge is actually good draft capital investment. This is going to be a very popular mock draft pick as long as Ramon McCoy gets healthy again. That is the Tennessee corner to the Miami Dolphins. Obvious need. Generally viewed as the number 1 corner, if healthy. That's a very, very popular one. The first of actually a lot of inside linebackers off the board. C.J. Allen out of Georgia to the Patriots. I think inside linebacker, I know they signed Robert Spillane. They added Christian Ellis over the years, Jack Gibbons. I think it's a possible need for the Patriots. I think he actually would be a pretty good fit for Mike Vrabel. I think you can make an argument Allen actually is the best off-ball linebacker over Anthony Hill this year, but it's a little bit rich. Seattle takes Colorado corner DJ McKinney. I can understand some of the round 1 buzz for McKinney. I think it's a little bit rich right now. We'll see how this year goes. It'll be a very different life for him without Travis Hunter. Getting another corner in general makes sense for Seattle, though, so I can understand it. Keldrick Falk at 16 to the Bears is an elite pick. Dale Odenigbo's there, paid Montez Sweat. They need one more edge rusher. Falk is a very gifted athlete, and I think there is a scenario in which he is a locked top 10 pick when we get to the actual draft in April. Houston goes back to the offensive line. Well, I feel like it's just going to be insert best available offensive lineman for a lot of mock draft picks here. Although I'm curious how they play it out with Ariante Ursary, who goes to the right side with Spencer Fano. I think he can do both. He could be the first tackle taken. There's a scenario that the Utah guys are the first 2 tackles taken in this year's draft. Maybe not the most likely scenario, but it is possible. Lenore Sellers at 18. So here's my issue. The Sellers in round 1, no complaints. The upside is immense. It's very intriguing. I get all of that. If the Vikings finish at pick 18 and McCarthy's healthy, it means they were good enough to almost / kind of be a playoff team. They were right there in the conversation, right on the edge, the precipice of it all, didn't quite get in. So you're going to bail on the second-year starter QB already? That doesn't make sense to me. Now, if Minnesota was at like 8, I guess, but I would be very surprised, unless it is an utter disaster from J.J. McCarthy, that the Vikings go take the raw prospect in round 1 at quarterback. I don't really get that one. Cade Klubnik at number 19. Pittsburgh, made the playoffs this scenario, barely, but they don't have a franchise QB. If Klubnik's there at 19, that one actually does make sense. Where the quarterbacks go, of course, is a big-time question mark. Who is the first quarterback taken? Also a real question. Who will it be? By the way, no more quarterbacks taken in this mock draft. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. I'm going to apologize in advance for this one, Producer Chris. I know you're our Bama guy. I don't think Deontay Lawson is a round 1 player right now. I get extremely concerned when this is the 3rd year we're mentioning you as hey, this guy could be an early pick. Like, that normally means, hey, some stuff happened that wasn't ideal for you. And injury is a big part of that for Deontay Lawson. I like him. I think he's definitely going to be a semi-early draft pick, but maybe this is more like in the Christian Harris range, speaking of former Bama linebackers, than, the Rolando McClain, still kind of early for him, range in round 1. Denver did pay Dre Greenlaw. We'll see about Drew Sanders staying healthy, Alex Singleton. Don't love the fit necessarily either. I do consider myself a fan of Caleb Banks, the Florida defensive lineman, so I like the fact that he went in round 1. I just don't know if to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers makes that much sense. Vita Vea is not going to go anywhere. They spent a first-round pick on Kalijah Kancey. I know Logan Hall's near the end of his deal, but I don't know if they have to spend another top 50 pick on a defensive lineman. That seems a bit excessive to me. Dylan Thieneman, I think the number 2 safety by a pretty good margin in this year's draft out of Oregon, transferring from Purdue. I would wonder if straight-up corner is a bigger need for the Chargers, but Jalen Ramsey's aging, Louis Gilman's getting a little bit up there in age. They did pay Elijah Molden, though. I consider myself a sneaky fan of Will Lee, the A&M corner, who I don't think is a big-time household name. Packers need corner help. If you're going to take some gambles on corner, round 1 is a good time to do it. Chris, I know you like this one, Damani Jackson, who I do think is underrated from a draft perspective. Kind of got lost in the shuffle, transferring from USC to Bama from that perspective, but played very well for the Crimson Tide last year. Rams certainly need corner help, so I do like that pick. I would argue that Emmanuel Prignon, the guard from Oregon, is the wrong Oregon offensive lineman who transferred to go in this round 1 mock draft. I think Isaiah World, transferred from Nevada, has higher upside, maybe fills a bigger need for San Francisco as well. I'm down to put Mateo Uiagalelei in round 1 mock drafts. It's based on projection. That's fine. He's not quite fully there yet, but the flashes are so tantalizing. I just think unless the Bengals completely botch the Trey Hendrickson scenario, 3 first-round picks at defensive end in 4 years is probably bad asset management. That'd be Myles Murphy, the first-round pick in 23. They obviously they took Amarius Mims in 24. Then Shamar Stewart, then Uiagalelei. And those are all raw developmental edges. Don't do it a third time. Now, we will have plenty of NFL draft videos for you here on Chat Sports. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button right now. Anthony Hill, the Texas linebacker. I think at times he's not quite like the sum of his parts. I want to see better coverage stuff from him at times. I think there are moments where if he doesn't see it right, he can not be in the right spot. I see him around the ball a lot, and that's normally a good sign at linebacker. And I think what he is able to do in kind of the same mold as like a Frankie Laveau, he can blitz and he can cover, he can go chase down the ball, actually makes him a great fit under Dan Quinn. Jaden Roberts, as we kind of fall into the old habit of like, who do I put in here? Bama guy in round 1. Freaky physical power from Jaden Roberts. And history does tell us the Ravens love drafting SEC players at the back end of round 1. They love doing that. This would probably mean you're moving on from Daniel Falele at the right guard spot. Sonny Styles, the linebacker from Ohio State, who I do like putting in round 1. I just think that 4 off-ball linebackers in a class that I think is kind of shaky overall is maybe not the path I would go down. Him and Jack Campbell, though, could form a really intriguing duo long-term since I don't think they're going to bring back Alex Anzalone. Denzel Boston, Washington wide receiver to Buffalo there. Maybe a little bit. I guess you can move on from Joshua Palmer, Keon Coleman, Denzel Boston, Khalil Shakir. That could be a really fun trio. I don't mind Mansour Delane being on here. That is the Virginia Tech transfer to LSU. I think he's really good. I was also a big fan of Dorian Strong coming out of Virginia Tech, too. I think Delane could have a big-time year for the Tigers. You know, we'll see what happens with Trent McDuffie. I think they get that deal done, but there's some uncertainty at other corner spots for KC. Finally, the Godfather, Dante Corleone, who has to stay healthy, has to have a productive season to justify this round 1 projection, but there is talent there. It's kind of getting himself back to the best version of himself. You know, if Moro Ojomo does not break out, I do think going back to the trenches would be an unsurprising pick by Philadelphia. So grade this mock draft. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Couple of players I want to mention not included, both Drew Aller and Garrett Nussmeier and Fernando Mendoza, but, you know, the quarterback stuff is always uncertain. I'll mention Carnell Tate. I think the wide receiver class in general is wide open. You know, Mekhi Lemon at a USC. You could have a Price, someone emerges. I know there's some fans of like Eugene Wilson down in Florida, but you got to see him do it for an entire year. Austin Barber is a good Florida offensive lineman. Isaiah World has an outside shot at being the first tackle taken, frankly. I think Christian Miller shouldn't be overlooked at Georgia. LT Overton, I think has a chance to be the first Bama player taken. I don't know if he does, but I think he's got a chance for it. Whit Weeks at LSU, I would put over Deontay Lawson. Sorry, Chris, again. Avion Terrell, A.J. Terrell's brother out of Clemson, I think is a potential top cornerback option. I also think Jalen Kilgore is a pretty good player, too, from South Carolina. So before we go, will you watch the NFL Hall of Fame game this year? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Will you watch the NFL Hall of Fame game? 66% voting yes. I'm glad how many sickos we have here at Chat Sports. If that describes you, make sure you are subscribed. Don't miss out on anything that we have for you on the NFL. Hit that sub button for free right now.